Mars is the fourth planet from the Sun and the second smallest planet in the solar system, after Mercury. It's named after the Roman god of war. It is often referred to as the Red Planet because the iron oxide prevalent on its surface gives it a reddish appearance. Mars is a terrestrial planet with a thin atmosphere, having surface features reminiscent both of the impact craters of the Moon and the volcanoes, valleys, deserts, and polar ice caps of the Earth. Mars has been a subject of public interest now for well over a year. It's always been an interest of the public, but over the last year we seem to be finding a lot more of these mainstream stories coming out about Mars, even odd images we're getting from the rover, which I'll cover that here shortly as well. But it extends beyond Mars. We're also seeing a lot of mainstream stories about space exploration, and beyond space exploration, a mainstream questioning of whether or not life exists out there. Now again, we've been questioning these things for a long time, but over the last year I've seen a real increase in the mass media concerning these subjects. I've covered the subject in the past about how we're being set up to accept alien arrival, to accept alien visitors, or our alien saviors, which I think ultimately that's part of the plan. When these beings show up on the planet, when they actually make their presence known, it's going to rock everything we've ever known. It'll completely and totally change our reality. Government, religion, everything, out the door. Everything's going to change. I tend to believe all this interest in Mars and all this interest in space exploration and this renewed interest in the questioning of whether or not things are alive out there and living. I believe all this is a psychological operation. I believe we're being set up by the New World Order to accept these alien saviors. Now remember, there are no coincidences. I saw a lot of people talking about this new movie, The Martian, and how it seemed to line up with all this new interest in Mars and all the images we're getting from Mars, and wow, isn't that a strange coincidence? But again, there are no coincidences. Again, I see this as part of a psychological operation. They want the public interested in Mars. They want your eyes on Mars. They're going to keep feeding us these images. And I believe it's all in preparation for, again, these alien visitors, which I personally don't believe these are actual little aliens or creatures from other planets. I tend to believe these are the fallen angels. I tend to believe this is a devilish deception. So before we get into some of these strange images that we've been allegedly getting from the Curiosity on Mars, I want to explore a couple other angles. This is something really interesting I just discovered over the last few days. And this is a video that was recorded by zooming in on Greenland using Google Earth. And the images these people captured are very interesting. They do make me wonder. In fact, at one point they find a vehicle in the middle of Greenland with a NASA insignia bearing the description of the Mars Project on the side. So clearly in the images you can see a tiny remote-controlled car, although it's obviously not the actual rover. But the Greenland landscape in the photographs look amazingly like that of Mars, apart from the red color, which of course could always be added in just a little bit later, right? So the question is the NASA Mars rover a hoax, and are the photographs being taken much closer to home rather than from, say, 140 million miles away? Or is it possible that NASA could just be testing out technology in Greenland due to its similarity to Mars? I mean, it would certainly make sense for NASA to test out this technology in the most suitable environment, and clearly from the photographs we can see a striking similarity between Greenland and Mars. But on the other hand, we know that NASA can't be trusted. So I want to show you a couple of the images that these people found, and you can decide for yourself on this. So this is from Google Earth, and again, this is out near Greenland. And there's the little remote-controlled NASA vehicle, right? As they pull back, you'll be able to see some people out there. Quote, NASA scientists, I'm guessing? Or filmmakers? It's interesting, if you look at the layout, it does look a lot like the pictures we're getting from Mars, doesn't it? Once again, minus the red tint, which could easily be edited in. And then there's this, check this out. There's some ATVs, of course, and right there we have it. There's the NASA logo, and then you see right there on the side, it's the Mars Project. So again, we have to wonder, I mean, if this really is a setup, if this is part of a deception, this is massive, right? I mean, the question is, are they actually out here in Greenland filming all this stuff, pretending like it's from the actual Mars rover? Or is this simply a place they're using to test out the equipment because, for whatever reason, Greenland is very similar to Mars? So let's take a look at some of these strange photos that we've been getting from the rover, or allegedly getting from the rover that's actually on Mars, right? Now, again, this is the official story. And who can forget this one, the weird-looking crab monster that people believe they're seeing right here in this image from Mars. And here we have the ghosts of Mars, right? Many people say that they're seeing a ghostly woman figure on the rocks on Mars. And in this image, it appears to show some kind of a military helmet, almost Nazi-like, that casts a shadow on the rocky surface of Mars. Of course, NASA never really makes any official comments about any of these images. And of course, there have been a few different images people have picked out from these rover pictures, believing these are skulls. And this is one right here I thought was really interesting. This is one of the skulls on Mars. This right here is the floating rock on Mars. Many people have spotted this right here, and they believe that it's literally a rock that's levitating on Mars. I believe this image speaks for itself. The Mars Curiosity rover apparently found a perfect pyramid on Mars. And here's another one of the NASA photos we were given, and if you take a look right there, it looks very much like a furry little creature in between those two rocks, perhaps a squirrel or maybe a guinea pig on Mars. And for those Star Wars fans out there, many people spotted this image and they believe it's a Star Destroyer, or whatever this spaceship is. It looks very much like a Star Destroyer from the Star Wars movies. But again, this was captured on Mars, allegedly, by the Curiosity rover. Here's an image that really went mainstream. Many people out there are calling this the Mermaid of Mars. It's interesting if you take a look at it, though. It certainly is in the form of a woman, or potentially a statue, but some kind of a female form. It looks like she's kind of sitting down on her knees with an arm extended. Pareidolia is a psychological phenomenon involving a stimulus, an image or a sound, wherein the mind perceives a familiar pattern of something where none actually exists. So that raises many questions. Are these images that people are seeing from the rover, is this just another example of that, of pareidolia? Are people just kind of making up these images out of their mind and they're not really seeing what they think they're seeing? Perhaps some of these images are real, we just don't know exactly what they are. And going deeper, what if all this stuff is a setup? What if there really isn't a rover on Mars right now, as we were looking at earlier in the video? What if all this stuff is staged? Why would they be staging all these odd artifacts, all these strange images, allegedly on the planet Mars? Now, is this just a way to garner public interest? Because these stories, these images, all these things come out in the mainstream all the time. We're always seeing news stories talking about a new weird image found on Mars, right? So again, is it a case of pareidolia? Is everybody just confused? Are these images real, even though we may not know exactly what they are? Are these images potentially from Mars? Is there really a rover out there? Are we finding all these strange alien artifacts? Or, again, is all this staged? Is all this staged? Is it all just an illusion? Are they putting these things out there to garner the public interest, to keep us talking about these things, to keep our eyes on Mars? Is this a slow process of indoctrination? Are they showing us that, yes, there are possibilities? See these strange images? Something's out there, right? Are they keeping us focused on that in preparation for disclosure, in preparation for a massive revelation? So just over the last few years, we've heard the Pope talk about aliens. We've even had people from the Vatican astronomers talking about aliens and how we would baptize these space brothers and sisters. So again, the dialogue's already there. It's because it's a part of the narrative. This story just came out yesterday. Once again, the Pope is talking about alien life. Pope Francis on alien life says, let's stick to what scientists say, but at the same time, keeping faith in God. So as you can see, again, they're merging this, the science and religion of this. They're merging this idea with the alien brothers and sisters. And again, it's no coincidence all these stories start coming out around the same time. Here we have another one saying scientists are hopeful that a star in our Milky Way is home to aliens. And again, another story just this month. Have we detected megastructures built by aliens around a distant star? Or just a cloud of comets scientists want to investigate further. But again, the story is out there. This idea that, oh, there could potentially be these megastructures we found out in the galaxies, more evidence of life. And again, another story that just came out this month. The mysterious floating city appears in the sky over China. If you haven't seen this footage, please go online and check it out. There's not much. It's only 20 or 30 seconds of footage of this, but it's very interesting. Now, of course, right here in the story, they're actually mentioning Project Bluebeam. They're saying that many people believe this could actually be Project Bluebeam. If you're not familiar with Project Bluebeam, please look that up. It's very real, and the government literally has the capabilities of creating things like this, cities and skies, 500-foot tall Jesus, or alien armadas, like tons of UFOs flooding, and they can do any of that kind of stuff. So that's the question. Again, is this an example of that, or is there something else going on? Could this be related to CERN? Are we literally seeing the dimensions shift? Are we seeing another timeline play out right before our very eyes? But either way, once again, you can see how these stories connect. Again, they're keeping our eyes to the skies. I believe they're getting us ready for something like this. And last but not least, I thought this was interesting. This story just came out today, but it has to do with Clock Kid. Remember Clock Kid? So where next for Ahmed, the Clock Kid? Mars? Question mark. Once again, Mars out there in the news. I thought this was interesting too. Just one more thing. I'll read a little bit here. But it says the 14-year-old whose homemade clock got him arrested when high school teachers in Irving, Texas mistook it for a bomb, capped off several weeks of high-profile visits with tech and political leaders, with the biggest invite of all, after President Obama reached out in a message retweeted more than 430,000 times. Ahmed was asked to attend Astronomy Night at the White House Monday evening. I thought this was interesting too, how they added this in, but the astronomy fan, which is Ahmed, the kid, he was actually sporting a NASA t-shirt at the time of his arrest. So again, we know NASA lies. We know that NASA is also built around the occult. These are witches. These are warlocks. And if you're not familiar with this kind of a subject, please do a little research on that. So was it just some chance that the kid was actually wearing a NASA t-shirt when he was on the news and got arrested and all this? Or was there something else at work here? Once again, is this just another part of the PSYOP, the psychological operation? Are we taking Ahmed to Mars? Is that what's next for Ahmed the Clock Kid? It's not even about all that. Once again, I do believe this is just a greater narrative. The idea is to keep us focused on the stars, focused on the skies, and believing that there's something else out there to set us up for when these things actually arrive. Hey, thanks for watching.